Welcome to Tell the Damn Story, the show that explores the many ways to navigate the successes and failures that aspiring and struggling writers face to make your journey that much easier.
Last week you were there all by your lonesome, being a lonely island boy, holding down the Tell the Damn Story fort, and you did a fantastic job. Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't see that episode, you can put us on pause and go and see what it's called, The Glory of Alex. I think that's the name of that episode, because it's all Alex all the time, and he let forth with the wisdom.
All I did was answer some questions.
Oh, that's all I did.
That's all I did.
That's all Aristotle did, okay?
That's true, too. That's true. But I was
Plato
looking
did,
good.
right?
What movie did that come from?
There you go.
No, and you were out saving the world, which is what we're going to talk about today.
I was out saving myself, actually. But, yeah, it was a grand experience, grand adventure.
You were at the New York City Indy Horror Book Fair.
Book Fair, yes.
Yes.
First time ever being
Where
there.
was that? In New York?
It was in Ridgewood, Queens, which is somewhere close to the Queens-Brooklyn border.
And that was hosted by what? The Brooklyn Book
Addicts is the name of the store.
As in the building, Attic.
Yeah, ATTIC,
right,
yeah.
Right.
And very, very cool people. Bridget and I, at the moment, I forget the gentleman's name, but they were very supportive, very well organized, and it was a very rewarding experience. I was excited about it. And you don't always get that.
Well, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about that. Also, because I missed you last week. No, I still wanted to talk to you about that because again, a lot of and you folks listening know this. A lot of our audience is comprised of emerging and aspiring writers, but even longtime writers who, yes, you've turned out a number of short stories, novels, whatever, but if you don't get out, you don't get out to do signings, you don't get out to do book fairs, you don't get out to go to conferences and meet others and mingle and actually promote yourself. Sometimes there's a reason for that. And, maybe you're not sure how to do that, or maybe you're nervous about it, or whatever. So Chris is going to share what that experience was like for him last week. And then if you stay till the end, we're going to talk about some of the speed bumps and barriers and padlocks and gates that we sometimes have to pick our way through or fumble our way through or climb over or deal with in order to get out there and do these things. We're going to talk about some of those and how to deal with them. So stay till the end, but let's get back to last weekend. Yes.
Last weekend.
So first of all, how did you hear about it? Because you don't live in Queens or Brooklyn.
No, I think it was Lara and John Frada mentioned it, and Damon Manx. They had posted about it, and I said, what's that deal? Can I still get in on it? And I looked at the threads, and there were a couple of tables open, and I got in touch and said, this is who I am. And I'd very much, because I already knew how much the table cost, it was very affordable. That's one of the things. Here's your first bit of advice, people. If you haven't done conferences and book fairs, you look at if they charge. Sometimes they don't. And then you get a free table, great. How much they charge for a table? Are they going for a full table, half table? And also try and find out how quickly they go. Brian Keene has a great event.
He's dropping names about other writers.
Brian Keene's, if you don't know him as a horror writer and you like horror writing at all, you should check out his writing. But more than that, he has been a godfather of sorts of the horror industry, because he has been a champion of the people without a voice and fought the good fight on many occasions. But to that end, he does a convention called Scares That Care. And at one point in his life, Brian Keene got burned in an accident. And so part of the money goes to finance the rehabilitation and recovery and medical bills of burn victims. And then there are other health situations that, if there's extra money, they'll give it to those people as well. So it's a great cause, great event. The only thing, and it's wonderful to go and see, because so many, if you like horror at all, your favorite author most likely will be there, and you'll find a dozen new favorite authors. But the one thing for people like us in the industry, or people like you wanting to do the industry side of an experience like scares the care tables go in a blink. So that's another thing you need to know. Find out if tables available that you might be able to get to represent your stuff, to put your stuff and sell your stuff. Two, how much they expend and how quickly they go, and jump on that. And usually through social media, you can find those things out pretty easily. So I don't always do this kind of stuff, but I have to. So I have to go and do more. So that was one of the
Well,
reasons I
this is
was
how
doing
you
this one.
found out about this one, right?
Yeah,
Through
well,
Damon,
I knew
Damon
them,
Mack,
and I
Manx, right?
Damon Manx, who's been on the show a few times, a really, really great guy. And he's the one who wrote the Ojanok series, which is I've gone
Talked
off.
about, yeah.
It's really good stuff.
So you contacted these folks.
Yeah, and they gave me go here, and I went there and said I'm interested, and they said fine, this is what you need to do. And I think I PayPal them, I don't know, 30 or $40 for the table, that kind of stuff. Long table, God bless it. They gave me plenty of room. Table wise, we'll talk
Mhm.
about other challenges in any con, but so yeah, then the challenge, Alex, was, oh crap, now I have to go.
Now I have to represent. Now I have to be there.
And that is something that, especially since COVID, getting back out and also I am predominantly an indie, most of my stuff is indie published. Non-indie published events, to quote Joe R. Lansdale, who said to me, yeah, it's great, the stuff, and I'm sure you're doing quality stuff, but industry just looks at you different. If someone has looked at your stuff and said, I want to spend money on that, means something different
You
than
mean the
you
published?
investing in yourself.
You mean the
Right,
published?
being
Right.
published.
Yeah.
So I have some of those things, and the number is growing. Hooray for our side! But you do get. I mean, I felt it last year at the StokerCon. It was a very, oh, you're an independent. Oh, yeah, like that. Oh, you lost the leg. Oh, did you? So I thought I smelled some rotting flesh.
Yes.
Um, but this was, I mean, right in the title of this event, New York City Indie
Indy.
Horror Book Fair. I knew I'd be welcome, and that's one of the reasons. So I was able to jump over the hump and break the ice and actually attend, which was well worth it.
So how many days was it, or one day, or
Just one day affair.
one day? What, the
Was
Saturday?
actually Saturday, and load-in, and we should talk about load-in, but load-in started at 10, but the event was 12 noon till 5 o'clock. So what we mean by load-in is that's when you're allowed to go into the space and set up your table, set up your books, set up the displays the way you want it, and we can talk about successful and less successful displays. And we'll
Right.
stay tuned.
Yes.
Um, it was only a 5-hour show, but that was enough to be successful.
Yeah.
They did a good job. This is kudos to Book Addicts. They did a really good job promoting this event, so people knew that it was happening.
A
You,
crowd.
you,
Yes.
yeah, you think that goes without saying, but honestly, it doesn't. If people don't know something's happening, or if they find it out in the last minute, they've already made plans or this and that. To do an event like this, you got to spread the word multiple times, weeks and weeks, if not months and months in advance. This is a hard lesson that I'm learning because I rush through stuff and I have to push my publishing date further back and start promoting things early so that you get this opportunity. And by the way, creep this way, how to become a horror writer with 24 tips to get you ghouling, written by our friend Rebecca Guthbert. It's all about how to do all the stuff we're talking about today. It's not so much about the writing. It's about how to live the life. And
But
she
we'll
has a
come
lot
back
of
to
good
that.
advice.
We'll come
We'll
back to
come
that.
back.
Yeah.
I think I'll hold that up 3 or 4 times this episode. But this is part of where I got the information on how to do the things, right? So what have we talked about? We talked about
Well, you
finding out word
contacted
of
them, they
mouth,
gave you a
right?
nice table, they gave you a nice
Right.
table,
How
nice long
else?
table.
Okay, well, how do you find out? Word of mouth or social media? I know some of you like Facebook's for great grandparents, but that's a good place for events happening that they kind of give you a long way. And then also, if you're following the open calls for your genre, or you're following pages that talk about your genre, where you live. Like if you live in the New York City area, you know, the Kentucky horror events page is going to be less helpful to you, right? But if you live in Kentucky, that's your bread and butter, right? But you could just go in the search and say, New York horror societies. We'll talk about that a couple of weeks from now, or New York horror related events or book events. And then you'll start finding out what pages to follow, which all of this helps. Once I got in there and got
You
the
loaded in,
application in, you had to put the application in. When
yeah.
you put the application in, here's another bit of of advice. Make sure you put in how you want to be represented, and you have to be clear. One thing that I had to correct was that they thought Soul Scream and Thalazine, understandably, because the last syllable there is zine, they thought it was a zine, which is a small publication you might make copies of in
Staples,
Staples or something, right? Yeah, yeah.
Office
So
Max, yeah.
I had to explain to him what the difference was. And a matter of fact, even that day, one of the organizers came out and said, "What is this? Tell me what this is." And I had to explain in detail what Soul Scream and Palazine is. And she wound up buying a couple copies. So that worked out. All right. So you find out, then you apply. Now you probably will have some fee for the table. It can range. Hope you're all sitting down. It can range for a table anywhere from $0 to I've seen places that charge 500 or 1,000. Those are enormous conferences, and if you can afford that, God bless you. You should be a guest on the show. But most of us are going for a more reasonable price, and this was very reasonably priced. God bless them. So that's done. And then you get the approval. Then you find out about the load-in. Then before you get to the load-in, you have to make a bunch of decisions yourself at home. Don't you, Alex?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
What's
Let's
the
see which ones
decision
you
you
name.
huh?
I was gonna say, which ones are you thinking about, or you're about to ask me something, so I'll
Well, I was
go
going to
either way.
say, when you go to an event, whether it's a conference or whether it's a book fair or a con of some kind, and you have a table, what decisions do you have to make before you leave the house?
Key, what am I taking and how much of them am I taking? And then if I'm taking a lot, how do I get them there? Whether I'm going to be carrying them myself in boxes or suitcases or whatever, or driving with a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
or do I have to ship it in advance? So
Yeah.
there's a number of logistics to be worked out, but definitely starting with what am I taking that would be appropriate, and then how much of that.
Now, here's the truth about this. This is another lesson for everybody. All of us, when we're first starting out, we take too much. And what happens as a result of taking too much to a book fair or a con or any other of these events is that means you're bringing a lot of it back home. And that doesn't always feel great. One of the things that I've been able to do over the years is trim that back. Trim that back. I remember being at a StokerCon or one of those events in the Pittsburgh area, and I had to mail a bunch of stuff home because I just had too much stuff. I couldn't even fit it in my car with whatever I was doing with that's ridiculous. Or I think if it was Pittsburgh or in I think it was in Denver. I mailed a bunch of stuff home because took a plane out there. So I wasn't even selling at that con, but I had purchased some books or some other things, and I wound up express mailing it home. Ladies and gentlemen, let me save you the trouble. You don't want that expense. Okay. So I saw in the loadout, I saw people bringing in 2, 3 rolling carts of boxes of equipment, and depending on the size of the convention, right? If you go to the New York City Comic Con or San Diego Comic Con, right? Or one of those huge ones, you're going to see booths where they have light shows or lights and banners and all. That's that animal. This was a catering room. Okay. And only a few people had the big expansive stuff. I had a banner, but for this show, I didn't bring my stands. I just put it on the front of my table. You should be flexible about that. So find out the size of your con and then think about, well, how long am I selling? For me, on this Saturday, it was 5 hours. Some cons, and Alex, you have been in those cons, it's going to start at 9 o'clock and it's going to end at 9 p.m. Or it's going to start 6 o'clock on a Friday till 9 p.m., 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on a Saturday, and then like from 9 to about somewhere between 3 and 5 on a Sunday. That's a different animal. And you got to figure out, okay, what do I need for that? That's great. And again, whatever you think, you probably need half of what you think. Right.
So let me just, I mean, and I think all this is great information. What was it like when you arrived with what you took?
I trimmed it down to 1 suitcase. That's what I would bring. 1 suitcase.
5 hours once. Okay.
1 suitcase of books and stuff, right? And in a backpack, I had a backpack that had a little strong box where the money goes and all that stuff, a couple of tablecloths, and then in one of the, the packet on the little like net in the side of a backpack,
Right.
I put the cylinder that held my banner. And I said, okay, that's the limit of what I'm going to have. The front packet of the backpack held snacks. Important for you to know. Bring some snacks just in case. It turned out that this room we were in, it was a catering room adjacent to a German restaurant. One of those Bavarian type, have a pretzel, have some schnitzel, right? That kind of place. And people went and ordered plates, and they would take a break if they were with partners, and they would eat it up. And there was no rule against drinking. So this is the first con I was at where people were going out to the bar, getting beer and coming back. I've seen patrons do that, but I didn't see, I myself did not partake. I
Well,
was,
you want to be a little more clear-headed in situations like that.
that was, that's my choice. But there was a couple of people. I think you have to stay focused and you got to be ready to do the spiel, which if you stay, you'll learn what a spiel is.
As opposed to a schnitzel.
So I brought the suitcase. There were some decisions I made. What are your goals? If your goal is to come home a billionaire, you got the wrong goal. What I wanted to do is a couple of things I want to do. One, I wanted to make sure I attended and feel good about that because I had been out of that for a while. Then I wanted to make it really hard not to buy my books. So
you got a pit bull.
No. I should have prepared for this, but I looked for what I had. I have a book called Ghosted, which is really a novelette or a longer short story, right? It's maybe 60 pages. And then I have the original version of Soulscream Anthologine, Come All Ye Faithless, which was the holiday one. And it was me, you, Carol, and I think Teal. Those were the only 4 stories in there. And then the interviews, and there's a couple of pop culture things in there, that kind of thing. So I have expanded that since then to include Damon and all those people and their stories, but I still had a ton of those original ones. so I could afford a loss on them.
Ah.
And then I decided that I could afford a loss on Ghosted. So I used those two as loss leaders. And I put them up. I put Mallory and Gunn Arrivals, but it wasn't a big seller. But those two were successful at this. So your show, you're not going to hit 100%. And I sold those two $1 each copy. Probably cost me $1.50, $2 at the time to print them. It has since gone up.
In a way, one of those $2 became a promotion or advertising kind of
Cost. Yeah,
cost.
definitely.
Yeah.
My justification was, if they see that price, they'll say, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" And there are more prices to talk to you about in a second. But the other one is, if they read either of them and liked them, they would come back and pay regular prices for the other stuff,
Mhm.
whether it's on Amazon or whatever, right? So it was to get some of my work in the hands of as many people as possible for as affordable price as possible. Plus, it allowed me to market in the pitch area. Now, Alex is great at cons and live events, at pitching and talking to people, but I wanted an opportunity to enter with a joke. There was another thing I did to crack the ice. But the idea was, if you're a billionaire, you're not allowed here. This is for working people. These are priced for working people. So I had the little dollar section of the table. And the next one, I pay $2 or $3 per copy to publish the various Soul Screams. I think the latest one might have cost me $4. But I
Very cool.
priced all of them for this event at $5. So even the most expensive one for me, I'd earn $1 on, but the others I'd earn less than I would off Amazon or at, regularly scheduled. But it's really hard in this economy to pass a table that has 1/3 of the table at $1 and or 1/4 of the table at $1, a half of the table at $5, because there's all the Soul Screens and a couple other of the books. And then the last quarter had Genius High, the two Mallory novels, City of Woe and City of Pain, and A Simple Rebellion at $10. Those are usually $15 books. So everything was priced low. We called it holiday prices. And I said, it's been a tough year for everybody. No billionaires allowed at this table. This is working people. And people liked that. So know your current events, know what you can afford, know what you can invest in yourself. Those things help the table be attractive. And we'll talk about the physical layout. Boom, right? There's one other thing I did. You can always get easily little candy trays. And a lot of people have individually wrapped candies. Lifesavers was on my table. Someone else had little chocolates, this and that. I'll talk about the table next to me because there's a whole different animal, something to look forward to. But on another little tray, I was shopping with Glorious, I don't know, 2 years ago. And she was in some, I don't know, card store or some kind of store. And on one table, on one shelf, they had I guess it was around fall. So they had jars. They were selling jars of glow in the dark skulls. Just cute little skulls that glowed in the dark. And I looked at that. The price wasn't bad. And I bought 2 bottles of them. And I had like a bottle and a half left. So I put them out in that cup, slightly glowing. And as someone walked by, I'd pick one up and I'd say, glow in the dark skull for you, for free. Have a skull. And then I would say, life's always better with a glow in the dark skull. And that worked somewhere between 80 and 95% of the time to crack them up and get them to stop and face the table. So something like that is a way to break the ice
Mm-hmm.
without saying, buy my books, or you need to see that, you got to be. So I was non-threatening. I wasn't hitting on anybody. I wasn't making the hard sell. I was giving away something for free.
Yeah. And then once they were looking at your table, they were seeing affordability.
Yes. Yes. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Give something away for free and then have unbeatable prices. The result of this, I'll give away a little bit of the future to tie you in now. I sold more books on Saturday than I ever sold at any other live event ever in my career. When we were in Chicago, debuting Race Against Time and selling blackjack, those individual copies, there might have been more than 30 sold, but that was you selling. I was just assisting. So for me, I sold 30 books in a 5-hour period. I would take that any Saturday,
There you
you know?
go. There you go.
So my goal was met, and the goal was to spread what I do
Ryanism.
into the hands of people that like to read that stuff. Because I firmly believe if someone reads Soul Scream and Thalazine, they'll want to read more of those. And I believe that I tell pretty good stories. So if they were to read something, they would say, ooh. And there were a couple of people who said, oh, these prices? I'm going to get this one and this one. I'm going to get this one for that guy. And they took full advantage. Fine. The more that's out there, the more chance I have of reaching people. Or, one of the things Soul Screen was invented for was, you read it and say to your nephew, or your niece or your cousin, check this out. You would love this because it's only cost you a couple bucks and you can get another one if you want. But the idea, boom, that's how I got started in the whole genre of horror, because someone handed me Stephen King's Night Shift. I know that's
Oh, yes.
dating me,
Yes.
but yes, that's how. So that was part of the plan. Let's talk about table. Okay. Presentation. If you get a table, it is most likely not going to be a beautiful table. There's going to be two kinds. The wooden one that has seen many years and is chipped on the corners. You know those, right? And those are usually catering tables or whatever, or meeting hall tables, or those plastic fold-up tables. And they're going to be aged and a little dirty. So invest in one or two tablecloths. I would advise you get solid color tablecloths.
Ooh, yeah.
If they're very loud, they actually take away from the books if you have loud patterns and whatever. So I tend to use black because any book cover is going to pop against the black backdrop. Simple as that. How many do you put out? It depends. I like to put out no more than a half a dozen copies of whatever I'm selling. Let's see if I can find. Where did I? Yeah. Visual aid. Some of the more attractive tables had these little display units, right? And you could buy on, I guess, on Amazon or anywhere, 1, 2, 3, 4 for about $8 or $10, right? And then you'd put a little stack out and put this in front, or you can put it on top so they can just take it and look. You want to encourage people, yeah, pick up, flip through, anything you want to do, take a look at it. You want them to feel that they can touch the property. Psychologically, the person who has picked up a book and flipped over, so looking at the cover, that's 1%. Picking it up, the percentage of possible sales goes up. Looking at reading the whole cover, percentage goes up a little higher. Flip it over, percentage goes up a little higher. If they open it up and read a little bit in it, you have the highest percentage they're going to say, yes, this one. It is not 100%. But allowing all those things to happen increase the possibility of your sale. So don't be possessive and, oh, no touching. You want them to touch. You know who taught me about that? Cassine Gaines, who's been on our show. For a while, he owned our show. It was his show, and we were the guest hosts. That's how often he was on. But I saw him do this, and he says, the more they touch it, better it is. And then I researched those steps that I just got, and it came from that guy. So God bless him. All right. So I had 3 sections that I wanted to advertise. You may have different styles of writing that you do. Put them in each in their genre. So it's easy for people to say, oh, I like horror. Oh, these are biography. Oh, I want that. So what I did was I put those little trays that I talked about, the one with the lifesavers, the one with the skulls, between each of the sections. So it was an easier way to see there was a separation. Right? You don't want them to take a $5 one and say, this is only $1. Or a $10 book, usually $5.
With those faces, those particular.
Right. I didn't see anybody like that at any convention ever. I made that. I don't want anyone getting mad at me. I tend to try and make them in straight order. I do, when people touch them, they get a little out of order. Don't get crazy.
Yeah,
if you're going to get crazy, wait till no one's around and then just fix them. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I also had index cards. Not index cards, excuse me, business cards.
Business cards.
In case you needed it. Bookmarks that had on one side all of the Soul Screen, and on the other side, something about the Soul Screen methodology, and a QR code where you could find all my stuff.
Do you have any of those bookmarks that you could hold up right now?
Well, let me see there, bud. Let me see. What we got over here? Let me see. Let's see.
I feel like I should be in an old bar with this guy swilling down bad whiskey.
Hey, listen. I tell you what, you just wait right over there for me. I'll be right back.
We're gonna wait right here. We'll be back after a word from our sponsor.
Let's see.
Yeah, I ask these things. It's fun moments here.
I'll tell you. If you could find a way to market your products, that'll work too. I tell you.
All right, so let me see if I have anything in here that
this is very last minute.
Extra glasses.
Folks. Yeah,
this is the all important bag, little treats
like his back belt.
Tissues, to hold on to the banner, clips,
clipping it to the table,
right?
So you don't use tape or anything. You can clip that to the table. Clip the banner to the table.
Yeah, a little cutter. So you can cut the tape or cut the rope. Markers to write stuff. Breath mints. I don't want to tell you why, but
markers to write stuff. Did you also have to sign anything?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, since you said write stuff, one of the things I did, and Alex will vouch for me because he has seen my handwriting, is I wrote out the different price things. And if you want to make an easy to use and very inexpensive display, take a piece of copy paper, fold it in half. Then fold each of those halves again so they're inside. And then write on one thing. And then when you fold it out, it will stand on its own. And I'll see if I have them in here. And I will show you.
I got to do this here. Oh, there you go. Okay, good.
So you have I use 2 pieces of paper. And I fold it in half, and then I fold each half in half.
Right.
And then, like this, with a little piece of tape to hold it together.
Little price stand. Yeah.
That's your little price stand right there. And what I did was I marked the number of sales on the back so that I would know. So there's
simple bookkeeping there.
Here's the dish I was talking about.
Let me before you go.
I was still looking for the index card, right?
But let me just jump back to the marking on the back, because that's a part of the business end of things. Sure. You are, and I'm talking to the audience now, you're a writer, you're at one of these events, you have your table, you have your merchandise, you're there for, in this case, he was talking 5 hours, but you could be there for 8 hours, right? But whatever the amount of time is, you are constantly on. You're constantly talking to people, interacting with people. Maybe you've got an assistant or a helper, maybe not. So there are times when there could be possible dropouts. If you haven't had breakfast before you have to hit the table, or you don't get a chance to do lunch, you start to get hungry, you start to get distracted. All these things can cause you to drop out particular pieces of information. So what Chris does makes perfect sense. Some people do it on a little notepad behind the book display. He did it on that. Either way, whatever is easiest, a little tally sheet.
5, 10, I sold 13 $5 books.
And that way he not only knows how many, but which one.
Right.
Right? If you only have one product out, that's fine. But either way, this is a good way, a simple way of being able, when it's all over and you're exhausted and you've packed up, you can look at this and go, okay, right, boom, boom. When you put your books away, whatever the remainders are, you can go, oh, okay, so how come I'm missing one here? These little things will help you at the end of the day or the next day when you go to do your numbers.
Now, if someone was paying close attention, they'd say he just marked them. He didn't mark which book. Alex is right. It would be better if you had a little clipboard and you could just mark those off by the title of the book. Easier bookkeeping. What I had to do, because I hadn't thought of that or I hadn't remembered to do that earlier, was that I had to keep close tabs on which books went out and how many I had of each, and then tally it from there. I did mention to have a little strong box. If you go to Staples, this is it. Only costs you a couple of bucks. And all of this searching was about the bookmark. So here's a bookmark with all the covers, right? And on the side, it has a logo. On the other side, it has a logo. And it's like holding a Huracan in your hands. Is that little tag I have. And this QR code, if you hit it now, you can go and find all things me. But all of that is, you got to prepare that beforehand. I'm about to go to the printer who printed these and ask for some more because they are really useful. Whoa, earthquake and sensor round. And it was an easy way to make sure they could find more of my stuff if they so chose. Sorry. So I would put it in each book I sold. So 30 of those went out. And then if someone was, can you, that was the choice. You could take one of those. And I also had a bunch of these that I printed out, which is little stickers. I think there was 4 or 5 different types of stickers, whether it was kids or 20-somethings seemed to love stickers. So they did that stuff. All of those things are, one, what am I going to put on my table and how? 2, what's my goal? How do I want to sell them? Now, a lot of people were just selling them full price. That's legit. I wanted to really be aggressive, so I lowered my prices to move more. Mm-hmm. Then I wanted them to feel welcome. The glow-in-the-dark skulls, the individually wrapped candies. Don't do it a pile of naked candies, because who put their fingers on the people aren't.
Yeah, really. People
individually wrapped. Little fun-sized
chocolates,
chocolate kisses, lifesavers. People will take a lot of breath mints if you put like individually wrapped peppermint lifesavers and stuff, especially if there's some alcohol involved somewhere, like there was Saturday.
Yeah, like there was that day. Yeah.
Yeah. Not that I knew in advance, but there you go. The stickers they like, all that stuff, so they're getting something for free. Matter of fact, I ran out of the glow-in-the-dark skulls. I went to re-up, and I found a bunch of other little things, like little black crows and little tiny ghosts and stuff like that. Where is it? There's a little... This guy actually glows in the dark. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see him, but he's a little ghost.
Ah, yeah, now I can.
So, but it doesn't cost that much, and it's a little icebreaker.
But it's also a talking point. Like you said, as an icebreaker, it's a talking point. It's a handshake. It's a little, it's all those things. Yeah.
Some people are good at asking potential customers, what do you like? And then adapting there. Alex is really good. You should go to an event where Alex is, just to watch him interact with people, because it's a lesson in manners and charm, old world charm, and
Old
and
world.
yeah, it was very interesting that he has the technique that he has down is what I like to call the Alex Simmons non-sell. And what that is he never seems to be selling, even as he's putting your money in his pocket and selling a copy of the book.
All right, folks. We packed so much real-world book fair wisdom into this episode that it ran long. So we're ending part 1 right here. But no worries. Part 2 is ready and waiting. Just click over and keep the conversation going. And don't forget, at the end of part 2, grab our book fair do's and don'ts guide for all the key tips in one quick, handy download. Okay? That's all for now. See you in part 2.